Hi, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well and safe. By the way, I'm Kenneth John Gananshul, and in this video, I will compare AMD Ryzen 3 3200G to Intel Core i5 6400. Now, let's start discussing their CPU specifications. So AMD Ryzen 3 3200G has the following specifications. It has a 4 number of cores, 4 number of threads, with a CPU speed of 4 times 3.6 GHz, and a base frequency of 3.60 GHz, a maximum turbo frequency of 3.80 GHz, and an L3 cache of 4 MB. While the i5 6400 has the following specifications. Number of cores, 4. Number of threads, 4. With a CPU speed of 4 times 2.7 GHz, a base frequency of 2.70 GHz, and a maximum turbo frequency of 3.30 GHz. It has also an L3 cache of 6 MB. So now, let's proceed with their memory specifications. AMD Ryzen 3 3200G has the following specification. Memory size of 64 GB with a memory type of DDR4 2933 with a maximum memory channel of 2, a maximum memory bandwidth of 43.71 GB per second, and a random access memory speed of 2933 MHz. While the Intel Core i5 6400 has the following specifications. It has a memory size of 64 GB with a memory type of DDR4 2133 and a DDR3L 1600. It has a maximum memory channels of 2, maximum memory bandwidth of 34.1 GB per second, and lastly, a random access memory speed of 2133 MHz. Next is the GPU specifications. The AMD Ryzen 3 3200G has an integrated graphics of AMD Radeon Vega 8, or also known as Picasso, a shading units of 512, a base clock rate of 300 MHz, a maximum clock rate of 1200 MHz, and an FP3 floating point of 1229 GFLOPS. While the Intel Core i5 6400 has an integrated graphics of Intel HD Graphics 530 with a shading point or shading units of 192, a base clock rate of 350 MHz, a maximum clock rate of 950 MHz, and an FP3 floating point of 403.2 GFLOPS. So now let's proceed to their single thread cores from 3 different benchmarks, namely CPU-Z, Geekbench, and Cinebench. So the AMD Ryzen 3 3200G has a single thread score of 427 in CPU-Z, 879 in Geekbench, and 390 in Cinebench. While the Intel Core i5 6400 has a single thread score of 348 in CPU-Z, 837 in Geekbench, and 275 in Cinebench. And in their multi-thread score, the AMD Ryzen 3 3200G has a score of 1599 in CPU-Z, 2874 in Geekbench, and 1481 in Cinebench. While the Intel Core i5 6400 has a score of 1409 in CPU-Z, 2682 in Geekbench, and lastly, a score of 1061 in Cinebench. And now for the conclusion. The AMD Ryzen 3 3200G and i5 6400 has the same thermal design power of 65 watts, while their multi-thread cores are 1599 and 1409. When we divide the multi-thread cores to their DDP values, we can determine what processor is more energy efficient, and that is the AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. So why is AMD Ryzen 3200G better than Intel Core i5 6400? Well, it has a 33.33% faster CPU speed. The CPU speed indicates how many processing cycles per second can be executed by a CPU. Considering all of its core processing units, it is calculated by adding the clock rates of each core, or in the case of multi-core processors, employing different microarchitectures of each group of cores. And the 3200G offers a high operating frequency than the Core i5 6400 processor. The clock multiplier on the microprocessor is not locked. To get more performance from the processor, it can be effortlessly overclocked. Be aware that overclocking voids warranty of the CPU. So I guess that's all, guys, and thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you next time. God bless and goodbye.